Did you know some parts of Japan have one of the highest concentrations of people living past 100 years old? And many of them still have the strength to walk daily, garden, climb hills, and stay active well into their later years. Today, I'm going to show you the surprisingly simple breakfast many Japanese seniors eat every morning that may help support strong legs, better mobility, and healthy aging, even if your diet right now looks nothing like theirs. Imagine visiting a 102-year-old in Okinawa. Before sunrise, they sit down to a simple breakfast made up of just a few key foods. Nothing expensive, nothing trendy. Yet hidden inside this morning routine are three powerful components that researchers believe may help support muscle strength, circulation, and long-term health. And the most surprising part? Most people completely overlook one of them. Stay until the end because I'll also show you easy substitutions and how you can recreate this breakfast using foods you can find almost anywhere. I'm Ellis. A few years ago, I started noticing something that honestly bothered me. People around me seemed to accept losing strength, slowing down, and aching legs as just a normal part of getting older. I spent months looking into supplements, health trends, and all kinds of miracle fixes, but most of it just felt confusing and overcomplicated. Then I started studying places like Okinawa and the everyday habits of people living well into their 90s and beyond. What surprised me most was that some of the biggest answers weren't hidden in expensive products at all. They were hidden in simple daily routines. There's so much conflicting health advice out there, so I want to share some of the things I discovered and help you avoid all the noise. Now let me show you what that 102-year-old Okinawan breakfast might actually look like, because this is where things start getting fascinating. You might be expecting some expensive supplement, a rare berry from the mountains of Japan, or a secret anti-aging ingredient nobody else knows about. But what if I told you the real answer is almost disappointingly simple? Picture this. The sun is just beginning to rise over Okinawa. A 102-year-old sits down at a small kitchen table. Outside, neighbors are already tending gardens or taking slow morning walks. Inside, breakfast is being served. But this doesn't look like the giant breakfast many of us are used to. No stack of pancakes, no sugary cereal, no drive-through breakfast sandwich. Instead, there's a warm bowl of soup, a modest portion of protein, colorful vegetables, maybe a small side dish, and portions that look surprisingly small. And honestly, if you saw this meal for the first time, you might even think, wait, that's it? But here's what makes this interesting. In Okinawa, breakfast wasn't designed to create food comas. It wasn't built around feeling completely stuffed. It was designed to give the body what it needed while helping people stay energized and active throughout the day. And there may be a lesson in that, because if you've ever eaten a huge breakfast and felt like taking a nap an hour later, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Now, you might be wondering, what exactly are they eating that's so different? Because for many people, breakfast often means toast, pastries, sugary cereal, pancakes, processed foods, or meals that send your blood sugar on a roller coaster before lunch even arrives. But many Japanese seniors, especially in places like Okinawa, developed patterns around food that looked very different. And today we're breaking down the three major breakfast components many people overlook. But stay with me, because after we get through them, I'll reveal one habit that may be just as important as the food itself, a practice called hara hachibu. And if you've never heard of it before, don't worry. Most people haven't. Let's count down. Starting with number 3, foods that support circulation. This surprises people because when they think about strong legs, they think only about muscles. But muscles are only part of the equation, because muscles need blood flow, they need oxygen, they need nutrients. And circulation matters far more than most people realize. Researchers have observed that circulation can slow significantly when the body remains inactive for long periods. Even small amounts of movement can make a difference. Think about that. Strong legs aren't just about how much muscle you have. They're about what reaches those muscles. Because you can have muscles, but if the body isn't supporting them efficiently, things can begin changing gradually. And that's usually how it happens. Not overnight, not suddenly, slowly. You stand up and feel a little stiffness. Stairs become slightly more annoying. Your legs feel heavier by evening. You start avoiding long walks. And before you know it, the things that once felt easy suddenly require effort. You might be thinking, well, that's just aging. But what if not all of it is? Traditional Japanese meals often included naturally colorful ingredients, vegetables, roots, sea vegetables, and plant foods rich in nutrients. And one thing these communities often shared was consistency, not perfection. Consistency. Now, before we move on, quick question. Have you ever noticed your body feels completely different after different breakfasts? Maybe one meal leaves you energized. Another leaves you sleepy. It's interesting once you start paying attention. Now let's go to number 2. Fermented foods. This one catches people off guard. Because whenever people hear fermented foods, they often imagine some strange health trend everyone suddenly started talking about online. But fermented foods have been around for generations. Long before wellness influencers, long before social media, long before health podcasts. Many traditional Japanese breakfasts include foods like miso or fermented vegetables. And you might be wondering, what does that have to do with strong legs? Fair question. Think of your body like a chain. If one area struggles, everything connected to it can begin feeling the effects. Energy, digestion, nutrient use, overall health. Everything works together. And here's something fascinating. People in Okinawa weren't eating these foods because a study told them to. They weren't measuring probiotics. They weren't counting gut bacteria. They simply ate these foods as part of everyday life, day after day, year after year. And that's something we often forget today. Many people spend years searching for one miracle solution, one magic supplement, one hidden ingredient. Meanwhile, some of the healthiest communities simply repeated basic habits for decades. And that's a very different mindset. Now let's move to number 1, protein. This may be the biggest surprise of all, because many people think maintaining strength means giant steaks and enormous meals packed with protein. But traditional Okinawan breakfasts were usually much smaller. You might see fish, tofu, soy foods, eggs, smaller portions spread throughout the day. And here's where it gets interesting. Because strength isn't only built by eating more, it's also supported by consistency. Think about a plant. You don't dump gallons of water on it once a month and expect it to thrive. You water it regularly. The body works similarly. Small support repeated over time. And many people don't realize how gradually strength changes happen. You don't wake up one morning and suddenly lose mobility. It often happens little by little. Standing becomes harder. Balance changes. Stairs feel different. And maintaining strength becomes increasingly important because strength is connected to independence, not appearance, independence. Now remember earlier I told you there was one habit that may be just as important as the food itself? This is it, hara-hachi-bu. This ancient Okinawan practice may sound simple, but it completely changes the way many people think about eating. Hara-hachi-bu means eating until you're about 80% full. Not completely full, not stuffed. About 80%. Now pause for a second and think about that, because many of us grew up hearing, finish your plate, don't waste food, eat everything. And if food tasted good, keep going. But many Okinawan seniors practice something very different. They stop before they felt overly full. And when I first heard that, I thought, wait, how many of us actually stop because our body says we're satisfied? And how many of us stop because there's simply no food left? Because those are very different things. Imagine finishing breakfast and feeling satisfied, energized, and light, instead of feeling like you need another coffee and a nap. That's a very different start to your day. And what's fascinating is that Hara Hachibu wasn't treated like a diet. People weren't obsessing over calories. They weren't following trends. It was simply a habit, a pause, a moment to ask, do I actually need more? Now, before we finish, you're probably thinking, Ellis, this sounds great, but I don't live in Okinawa. Fair point. You don't need to. You don't need a Japanese grocery store. You don't need specialty ingredients. And you definitely don't need to change your entire life tomorrow. Because this isn't about copying Okinawa perfectly. It's about understanding the pattern. Protein, colorful foods, something fermented, smaller portions, and practicing Hara Hachibu. You can recreate that almost anywhere. Eggs with vegetables and yogurt, salmon with vegetables, soup with tofu, oatmeal with seeds and berries alongside protein. Simple meals, simple habits, simple consistency. And here are some easy substitutions. No tofu, eggs work, no miso, yogurt or kefir, no fish, beans or another protein source. No Okinawan sweet potato, oats work too. Because the goal isn't perfection. The goal is creating patterns your body can repeat. Now you know why many Japanese seniors continue staying active and maintaining strong legs well into later life. It wasn't one miracle food. It wasn't one secret ingredient. It wasn't one overnight fix. It was daily habits repeated for decades. Simple meals, simple movement, simple routines. And maybe that's the biggest lesson of all. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe for more videos just like this one.